Welcome back to the Retail Initiative podcast. I am so excited. I have a special treat in store for you. With me here is Scott Cunningham from Merchant Mastery. Hey, Scott, how's it going?
Really good, Josh. Thanks so much for having me. It's an absolute honor to be here with you today.
Yeah, if you don't know who Scott is, he owns Merchant Mastery, and they are brilliant at the work they do with Shopify retailers. And I always love bringing in people that can encourage you and equip you with tools and strategies and tactics and all those things for you to grow. And so we're going to jam through that today, right? And I hope that you leave this episode with some clear things that you can take to your site and implement right away. That's my goal for you. So Scott, why don't you do me a favor? Just for those that don't know Merchant Mastery, tell us more about you and what you do.
Sounds awesome. Yeah, it's Josh. I know I've gotten to know you really well for the last little few months here, and it's been awesome. But basically, I've been working in e-commerce for over a decade. Right, so I am the founder of a Shopify sales agency too. It's called Socialite. So we've been doing like a lot of marketing with Shopify stores for the past decade. And what we're trying to do is help people. Usually at our agency, businesses are already off the ground. They usually already have like 50, 60, 80K a month, and they're just like they need to outsource it. They need somebody to take over with the systems and processes to like really scale it. So we do that with our agency. But over the years, we started to honestly build like a really good reputation in the space, in the Shopify space. And we had a lot of early stage Shopify stores showing up at our doorstep saying, hey, can you help us out? And honestly, my advice for a lot of businesses is like, you don't want to hire an agency too soon. If you're not ready to hire an agency, like if you don't have product validation, you don't have a little bit of sales, you haven't like tweaked your messaging the right way, it's just like a massive learning curve to hire an agency to do that stuff for you, which gets like really expensive really quickly and can honestly like really hurt your business. So we started a second business called Merchant Mastery, where we're like, hey, we can help you scale with our agency, but let's like fix your foundations first. So it's essentially a school that is helping early stage Shopify stores. It doesn't matter if you're brick and mortar, you sell one product, you sell many SKUs. We're helping all kinds of people who are selling on Shopify build their foundations with their positioning, their store, email marketing, and ads. And we've been doing that with Merchant Mastery for a few years now, and it's been fun.
That is incredible. And I love the idea of like going back to the foundation, because I think a lot of us, myself included, sometimes we think the problem's this like super complicated thing, and I need all these like what app is going to fix my thing. And what you're incredible with is the way that you can help a retailer really fix like their positioning.
Yeah.
The way they present themselves online, and not even just visually, but it's more than that. And I love, like, you have this framework that I think is brilliant for that. I'd love to talk through that. Does that sound good?
Yeah, it sounds awesome. I think, like, just adding to what you're saying there, like, when we first built Merchant Mastery, it was like a mentorship system. And we literally, the first version of it was like, you'd be taking this program to get a PhD in e-commerce. So we were trying to teach everybody everything that we knew about e-commerce. And e-commerce, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of shiny objects, a lot of things you can get distracted by. And we noticed with version 1, when like there was a real action taker, a real doer, they would do everything, they would get amazing results. But then there was a whole bunch of people that were just getting overwhelmed with how much they were going from, like, we always often think of Shopify stores at 3 different stages. You're at a crawl, where you're doing like under 10 grand a month. You're at a walk, you're doing like 10 grand to 80 grand a month. And then you're at a run, you're doing over 80 grand a month, which is like the $1 million mark. It's hard to go from like a crawl, when you're just like trying to figure out your bearings as a little baby infant, to running in like a 100-meter race the next day, right? So we were like, okay, well, we don't want to get people from crawl to run in a few weeks. What we're going to do is simplify our training. And we just took out like everything. We took out everything, and we're like, what are the foundations? Like, what do people really need to master to get momentum? And you're absolutely right. We narrowed it into just positioning. Right? It's like you can go and learn how to do YouTube ads or Facebook ads or email marketing with Klaviyo. You can learn all that stuff on like YouTube. You can hire an awesome team to do it. There's lots of ways you can do it. But none of those things are going to work. Like, advertising is not going to work. Your Shopify store is not going to work. Email is not going to work if you're not positioning your products to your customers the right way online.
For sure. Yeah. And gosh, we talk about this so much. Like, if anyone's been listening to me for any amount of time, It's the idea, like in your storefront, it is so easy. In your storefront, positioning, it just comes like second nature. And I talk all the time about how, the problem, at least from my end of it, is that stores like see themselves as a store. And because they're so good in store, everything they do revolves around that. And so they're a store that has a website and a store that has an Instagram. And instead, like, okay, how do we become a brand, and a brand that serves people through an online experience, through a social media experience, through an in-store experience? But it ultimately is about the brand. And what's fascinating is I'm seeing that as brands go through this, is it actually improves the in-store experience and the online experience, because they're finally starting to articulate what that is. And that's where I love the framework that you've put together. Is I think that's a challenge. Like even I have like all these trainings for it and all these kinds of things around how to do that. But I think even there's still, I'm like, I want something else. Like I need a clear way to do that. And I think you've bottled it up in a way that I wish I could. So can we let's jam on that, because it's
jam.
worth sharing.
We're gonna jam. Okay, let's do it. So I think I actually started my career working in brick and mortar stores as a digital marketer. So I helped like big sporting goods stores. I helped like menswear boutiques, stuff like women's wear boutiques. And so I really appreciate the brick and mortar experience, right? Because you kind of have honestly, if you're listening to this, you're on you listen to Josh's podcast, you probably have a brick and mortar store, right? So I always, 40% of the businesses we work with are brick and mortar stores. And whenever I meet a brick and mortar store owner, I know they have a head start with this positioning formula that I'm about to share, right? Because they know the customer, they've gotten to speak with the customer a lot over the years, sell to the customer, get the feedback, right? So ultimately, I want you to picture this, okay? So picture you're in your brick and mortar store. Okay. And now I'm going to use an example of what a brick and mortar store that we've worked with for many years. They're called Ocean Sports. They're out here in Alberta, Canada. There's not an ocean near us, but they do sell ocean gear, but they also sell a lot of lake gear. Right? There's a lot of lakes. So if you want to go wakeboarding, if you want to go like kite surfing or paddleboarding, any kind of lake activity, that's your spot, right? And historically, they would only sell through brick and mortar. They didn't really have much of a Shopify presence. So if you would go and visit them in store, you would buy your stuff, you go to the lake, et cetera, et cetera. Literally during the lockdown, we started work with them before lockdown. The need to go online was immediate, right? And they were one of the first clients to just make that hard pivot, and we helped them out. But basically, let's just think back for this Ocean Sports for a sec, okay? Before they were an online success. You're sitting there and you're selling wakeboarding gear, right? Customer walks in the door and it looks like he's like a dad. Okay? He's a dad and he's looking for wake gear. Okay? For sure. Another customer walks in the door. They're also looking for lake gear, but this person now is in his 20s and he's got like a surfer haircut and he's wearing like really cool wake clothing kind of stuff, right? What do you think each of these, this is two different customer avatars that they would sell to, right? One of them is like this dad dude. Do you think he's buying wake gear to shred it?
No, absolutely not.
Do you think the surfer looking dude is there to shred it?
Absolutely.
Right? So they're there for different motives. The dad dude, what do you think he's there for?
He wants a fun family vacation.
Fun family vacation, right? So he's there shopping based on the demands of his kids and his family and his aspirational state. He wants family memories. He wants a vacation. He wants legacy. He wants to escape from the city, right? And he ultimately wants to provide like memories for everybody through their childhood and everything, right? So way different buying motive than surfer dude who's like, where's the latest fiberglass material thing so I can go shred it and win a competition this weekend, right? So this is a head start, because if you're a brick and mortar store listening to this, you are probably nodding your head and listening and saying, hey, yeah, I experience that all the time. I have different avatars. But when that avatar walks in, you could read their mind. You're like, oh, I know why they're here. I know how to help them. I know how to serve them, right? But the mistake that a lot of businesses make when they're selling on Shopify, even when they have the brick and mortar store, is they don't call out the customer. They don't speak to the customer with their messaging. Instead, what they usually default to doing is just showcasing their products, right? So they're like, here's our products, here's how great they are, here's what they could do, here's our selection, here's how we ship. So they talk a lot about like the shopping experience, but what's missing is that in-store connectivity where you're calling out the customer and you know exactly how to help them right away.
Absolutely.
Right? So
Yeah.
there's some context with you is why this is so important, is because when you build your Shopify store and you start advertising, you start sending out emails, you get people to your product pages, we got to remember that we're speaking to these avatars as well.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask about that because, especially for anyone that's listened to me, I talk a lot about like one perfect customer. And then you have that one. Now, I do put the nuance in where I say, like for identity-based brands, things like music shops, craft stores, demographics are not like one perfect thing. Like a 16-year-old guitar player and a 60-year-old guitar player have the identity. But for like a clothing boutique and those things, you have one. And I think I know how I would answer the nuance. But how do those coexist to you?
So first of all, I don't know if you can add a little animation of me and you in a pod, because I feel like we are two peas in a pod on this topic. Like we care a lot about the avatar, right? Mm-hmm. And the truth is, when I'm working with Ocean Sports many years now, they're still one of our clients. We worked with them for a long time. Literally, the question is, okay, we only want to prioritize one avatar right now at a time. What's the best avatar? Like and the reason they love the Lake Dad, we call him Lake Dad Daryl. Right? They like the Lake Dad because he's got disposable income. He's got, he's buying lots, right? He's buying like wake gear for everybody, vests for everybody. He's got the boat, right? Mm-hmm. We used to call him Behind the Boat Bob, and now we switched it to Lake Dad Daryl. But he's totally the Lake Dad, right? And we're like, okay, well, that's definitely our best avatar. And what we would do in an online marketing world, when we're going to go and scale this business and sell internationally, we start with the one avatar that we have the most data for and that is our best buyer, right? And we'll run that. We'll like build some landing pages, launch some emails, launch some ads, and get that avatar working for us. And then what we're usually doing, I know this is getting a bit advanced a bit soon, but when we're advertising, we'll take like 5 to 10% of our ad budget and do some like R&D initiatives to see if we can scale up another avatar.
Yeah.
Right? But we are starting with one, which is our best.
Yeah, for sure. And we could probably talk about that the rest of this episode, but I don't want to get too deep into it. But it's something I talk about so much. And so I wanted to clarify that. So let's keep going. So they're going after Lake Dad Daryl, and, we have to call out that customer.
Yeah, so the next part, you're going to love this. If anybody's listening right now and you like making omelets, Josh, do you like making omelets? Have you made an omelet?
Absolutely.
Okay, I didn't have an omelet for breakfast today, but this formula is easier than making an omelet. Okay, I'm going to share with you the ingredients that you need to include, and you're just going to mix and match them, fry them up for breakfast, and serve them to your customer. Sound good?
That sounds great. I will say, if I have you back on the show, the next time I feel like we just do an episode where we're both eating an omelet together. And that's the episode.
I was in Texas. Texas last week. I could have popped by for some like ranchero style omelet or something.
Oh, would have been great. Next time, Scott.
All right. If there's any chefs listening, we need a chef to help us with these omelets, but they're easy to make, right? So basically, in the omelet, your sales pitch formula, there's 5 ingredients, okay? And the first ingredient you need to consider is the hook. Okay, the hook. This is the most important piece of the puzzle, because this is the part that calls out the avatar like you would in your brick and mortar store, right? So to do this, what we usually do is we create like an avatar document. And just one of my favorite things, like this is just for this purpose of this podcast episode, I'm not going to go through our 41 questionnaire that we go through to build an avatar, but just I'm going to give you one of the questions in this avatar document that we use is the average day. Right? Like, how does your product make your customers' average day better? Right? And if you think about, like, so this is more about the pain point of the customer. A hook is meant to call out the customer's pain point or desire and not really explain how we solve it yet.
That's awesome.
Right? So we, like, for Lake Dad Daryl, we could say something like, tired of having your kids, like, stuck on TikTok all day? right? So that's a good example of a hook. So you think about the average day. Oh, average day, sitting at home, kids are out stuck to their phones. He's wishing they were out at the lake, wants to go make memories, right? So a hook is just calling out their undesirable situation that they're living with right now. Hey, sick of your kids being on the phone? Do you wish you were making more memories this weekend? Those kinds of things, okay? And so the hook is like a call out, a challenge, a bold claim, a statement, right? When we do a lot of our own marketing, one of our most successful hooks, because we help Shopify stores, one of the most successful hooks we ever use is your Shopify store a hobby or a business?
Oof,
right? So it's agitating. It's deep. It agitates this pain point, right? It agitates the undesirable situation. They don't want to be known as a hobby. They are a business, right? So with the Lake Dad Daryl, and we're saying, hey, you sick of your kids sitting on TikTok? All of a sudden, what the hook does is it agitates this pain point, and that's how we win their attention. They're not on Facebook shopping for like sundresses or wake gear, right? They're on Facebook looking at their friends' photos, joining groups, soaking up some news, right? Whatever it is. And all of a sudden, we're trying to win their attention. So we agitate them with a little hook that is speaking to a little nuance that they're living with that they want to change.
I love that. And it's like in doing that, it's almost like a stand-up comedian. Like what makes the best stand-up comics so good is not that they're saying something like new, it's that they're articulating something that we're all thinking.
Yeah.
And they're articulating it in like a unique way where we're like, yes, like that's so annoying, or that's so frustrating. And Lake Dad Daryl's going to see that copy, and he's going to picture like what's so magical is that's so short. But in that, he's thinking about his identity as a dad. He's thinking about his relationship with his kids right now and the future. He's thinking about where he's probably not as good of a dad as he wishes he was. But here's your pathway to becoming that.
Yeah.
And you're speaking to all of that without even trying to.
You nailed it though. Like it is like the better that we could, it's the comedy thing that you just said, like the more we can read the mind, the better we can understand those little pain points that they're living with, the better we can create hooks that agitate that pain point and get them to stop scrolling. You said something that resonated. We're ultimately trying to picture our customer like reading this content and like laughing hysterically, like knee slapping, or they're like, whoa, jolt reaction, or they're just narrowing in, or they're sharing it with their friends. But we're trying to like provoke that reaction with the hook.
Yes.
Right? And the better we could say something like, are you really going to let this be your 8th weekend in a row of your kids just sitting on TikTok all day? Like that could be a hook where he has no idea what we do. But the hook is just like, do you have this pain? It serves as a qualifier. It's like, do you have this problem? Because we're going to show you how to solve it. Right? So that's kind of what the hook does. It's a scroll stopper. We want them to stop scrolling and give us our attention.
Yes, that's awesome. All right, so we got the hook. Call them out. They have to stop. Like there's a gut response there. Then what? Like what's the next piece?
So with great power comes great responsibility. Because if you have a good hook and you're going to win their attention, you got to back it up. Okay? You got to back it up with value. So what happens is you kind of like hit this customer with the hook and they're rattled. They're like, oh my goodness, this is the 7th weekend in a row where my kids have been on TikTok and I haven't done anything about it. I'm a terrible dad, right? So identity comes into play like you were saying as well. And what happens though is they're rattled now and you just won their attention. Like, so now what happens is they turn into a detective and they interrogate you. Okay. So they actually put you through 4 lines of questioning. Because they're like, okay, you got my attention, Josh. I'm ashamed that my kids are on TikTok these last 7 weekends. But the first thing that they might ask is, okay, you got my attention. I don't want my kids on TikTok. How do you solve this? How do you solve this and make my life better? How do you fix this situation? Right? So we address this line of questioning with what we call function attributes. So it is the features of the product. It's the benefits that they provide. Right? So it would be something like, hey, you can buy like brand new wake gear that's made from these materials that you only need to store throughout the summer. It's all about like the how to use it, the use case, the features, literally how it's going to make their life better. use this at the lake. You can use it from sunrise to sun up. Our new like waterproof technology allows it to go forever. So it's about the features and the benefits that those features provide. Right? And then they're like, okay, that's pretty cool. Like they got this like these really cool wakeboards. Sounds like I could picture my kids ripping it up with these. So that's all about function, right? I get how it works. So far it's like, Josh, you got my attention with that hook. Don't want my kids on TikTok. Oh, you got these products that the whole family can use from sunrise to sun up at our lake. Get how it works, right? So it's like, you got my attention. I get how it works with function attributes. The next question that they're going to ask is, who's selling this? Like, who am I buying this from? Right? And we address this line of questioning with brand attributes. And this is all about triggering instant likability. Okay? And we do this with things like our mission. Like we want people to like believe in our mission, support our causes, align with our values, see themselves in our narrative. Right? So if you're speaking to lake dads, you want to use language that meets Lake Dad Daryl where he's at. Right? We started this business because we believe in families bonding every summer. That's going to align with his values, right? A percent of the proceeds go to supporting these children charities. He's going to support that cause, right?
It's good.
So it's a lot about just instant likability. You align with those values. You like what the company's about. You're like, okay, this I can get down with buying from this company.
Yeah, gosh, that's so powerful. Like, you know, I work so much like in the women's clothing space and the boutique space, and one of the things that I'm seeing a lot is like, gosh, there's just 1,000 boutiques within 50 miles of me, much less all across the country. Like they're popping up literally left and right. How do we stand out in that? And that's where these pieces come in. I mean, it's obviously all of it, but that piece, like
brand.
Communicating your mission and who you are, really gets that buy-in, because if we're just selling a bunch of products, then we're never going to be able to stand out. But if we can position where our mission is in line with our customer's mission, even if they're not, like, none of us are going to websites purposely interrogating it, like knowingly. We're not looking at it being like, they better have a mission I can align with, but our brain's just looking for it. Without knowing we're looking for it.
Yeah. And you're totally right. It could all happen really quickly. That's the intent, right? The intent of this 5-part formula is to stack so much perceived value that people say yes, because it just happens so quickly. They're like, whoa, I'm going to do this.
Love it.
But you're right about brand. Like, and anybody listening who has a brick and mortar store or has worked in the space, you would know that like that is the differentiator. You kind of build a following. You're that community advocate. People go to you because they trust you. They trust your opinion. They like what you're all about. They align with your values. They align with what the store represents, right? And it's really important to mirror that on your online store, because one of my favorite things to do is like, we always say on our team, we're like, there's no such thing as faceless commerce anymore, right? Brick and mortar store, you know the people there. Well, we want to do the same thing with the online store. So one of the best brand attributes that we include is like a from the founder video. And people will get behind you when you say, you know, I started this business to solve this problem in the world. I failed. I almost gave up, but I got back up, and here's how I solved it, and I'm bringing the solution to you. Right? So like those kinds of founder stories are really powerful for brand.
That's awesome.
Okay, cool. So far it's like, Josh, you got my attention with that hook. Don't want those kids on TikTok for the 8th weekend in a row. I get how it works. You got an amazing selection of these really cool products. Sounds like my kids could rip it up with those. And I really love the company. Like I align with the mission, see myself in the narrative. The next question that they're going to ask is, but is this company legitimate?
Yes.
Right? So we address this with what we call influence attributes. Influence. And this is just leveraging third-party endorsements. So my favorites would be like customer reviews, user-generated content, customer testimonials. But you could also have like awards. We work with a lot of businesses who have won awards for their customer service or for their products. It could be certificates, industry endorsements. It could be things like celebrity endorsements. It could be social proof, like publications you were featured in, or your social media following, any kind of third-party endorsement that you could leverage where people are like, got my attention, get how it works, love this company, and wow, people seem to love them.
Yes. Gosh, we've A/B tested that, and it's unbelievable what that does. And you wouldn't think, but it's something it just triggers in our brain.
Especially when people are further along in the decision-making process. Like it's good for, we test it all the time too, for like a cold message. Cold meaning this is the first time somebody learned about me. It could work there. But where it most often works the best is in like a remarketing effort, like in a retargeting ad, in a follow-up email, where they're in that decision-making process. Like an abandoned cart email is a great place to put a testimonial, where somebody's like, oh, I'm on the fence. I just need to know a little bit more. And then a review and a testimonial really helps.
Yeah, that's powerful. Okay, so we have that. We're like, they're legit. If we check that box off in our brain, then what? Like, what's next in the process?
Yeah, influence is all about trust, right? Brand is all about likability. Influence is all about trust. And that now they're like, okay, I get it. Got my attention. Get how it works. Love the company. People are saying amazing things. The last question that they're going to ask is, based on everything I know about this product in the moment, does the perceived value of everything I've learned outweigh the price? Right? So the hook, it's like, we got to show them that this pain point is something that they don't want to live with and they want to solve. We showed them how to do it. We're an amazing company and we really care for our customers, and a lot of people are saying amazing things. If that perceived value is high, right, that's the whole point of that 5-part formula. We're trying to stack so much value that it's a no-brainer to buy right away. But with that last one, it's all about price. So we call this transaction attributes, and we don't want to leave things to chance. To really tip the scale in our favor, we're going to include things like offers. Okay? And when I say things like offers, it's because when I say offer, I don't mean discount. So we are including an offer. But when I say offer, I don't mean only discount. A discount's a type of offer. So it could be like welcome offer for 10% off. It could be like gift with purchase offer. It could be like bundle, tiered discounts, buy more, save more. Like there's lots of different offers we could do, but it doesn't always need to be based on eating up your margins, right? It could be things like scarcity, limited, right? Yeah, for brick and mortar, scarcity is real. There's only couple sizes of everything. Right? Yeah. So it's scarcity. It's like limited edition, limited supply, limited inventory. It's urgency, limited time. Sometimes it's just pricing justification. Right? It's like we don't discount, our prices are high, but this is why. We only carry the most high quality products. We only work with people who are certified specialists. We only do this. Like our operational efficiency is dialed, this is the price, and it's going to last you a long time, these products. Right? So it's a lot of different things we could do for transaction, but it's most often urgency, scarcity, or things to take away risk. Like 30-day money-back guarantee, free exchanges, lifetime warranty. I've seen that before, not for everyone, but...
Yeah, I don't know if boutiques are going to do lifetime warranties on dresses, but clearly articulating that is so powerful.
Yeah, some manufacturers within brick-and-mortar stores do, though.
Yes.
I have like a Filson bag that has a lifetime warranty on it, and it's just like a bag for my laptop.
Oh, for sure. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've returned my fair share of things to Nordstrom and REI and those brands. And, as I've gotten older, I've learned not to abuse it. But there was something I do remember, like, especially earlier in my career, funds are limited, going into REI and buying my first like nicer pieces of gear. And the security that I had, where I'm like, if this thing's not as good as I want, I can do something. And that may not fit every business model. This isn't like a one-size-fits-all strategy, but the principle behind what you're saying that I think is powerful is that it's like two sides that we can do. We can either increase the desire for it by making the offer, like whether it be urgency-based or discount-based or whatever, or removing the risk.
Yeah.
Of like, if you get this and it doesn't work out, here is what you should know.
Listen, like what you just said is bang on it. Either an incentive to buy or take away risk. That's a transaction attribute, right? And listen, I've worked with brick and mortar stores as long as you have, right? Like we don't want a lot of returns and exchanges, right? So the key here is we're not leading with that. That's not the only reason to buy. It's not like, hey, everybody, here's an ad about me and you can exchange anything all the time. We don't want to lead with that. If we've done a really good job with the hook and the function attributes and the brand and the influence, this is just a little thing to tip the scale over, right? It's saying we stand by our products. We're confident. And all it's doing is taking away that risk where they're like, this company sounds really on top of everything, right? And the truth is, if a customer buys from you and it doesn't fit, whether or not you said that, they're going to want to exchange it, right? So all it's doing is kind of just that, like a lot of people who are on the fence, we're just going to get them to buy anyway, right? Because now we have this extra thing to take away risk. But we all know, like in this day and age, there's a very small percentage of people who actually return things. So it's going to happen anyway. But if this is going to be one little attribute that we can include that's going to lead to more people taking the leap, we're going to do it.
Yeah, man, that is good. Dude, this was so powerful. I really believe, like, if a retailer takes these things and thinks through them, because it applies across the board. It's not like this is just for sporting goods. Like, this can be a clothing boutique. This could be a home decor business. This could be any kind of retailer could take their site and their experience through that lens.
Yeah.
And I believe, like, see an immediate improvement.
This is it, and I won't go. I could go a long time about this next part, but I'm going to give you like the elevator version of it. So it's like, like I talked about 5 ingredients, right? You want to brainstorm lots of different hooks. Brainstorm these 4 value attributes. We have a good acronym for them. TBIF. Thank Buddha, it's Friday, right? Transaction, brand, influence, function. You want to brainstorm lots of hooks and lots of TBIF value attributes. Lots of transaction, lots of brand, lots of influence, lots of function. And then that's where we make the omelets, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, today I'm going to try sausage and green pepper and spinach. Tomorrow I'm going to try onion, mushroom, and cheese. And we're going to serve them to our market and see which one's the best seller, right? So we test lots of different versions of these offer stacks. And this is the key, is like having that toolkit to create these offers. And then what do? We apply them to our website. We put them in our emails. We test them a ton with ads. And we start finding these like award-winning omelets. And we're like, we got to use that messaging everywhere.
Gosh, that is so good. If you're listening, I hope that you were taking notes, that you're leaving with plenty to do. Now, one cool thing, Scott, you have a training that goes through this. We're going to link that in the show notes. We also will put it on our page at madebycapital.com/podcast. So we'll link to his training where you can see examples and all of that cool stuff as he kind of deep dives into this a little bit more, which is awesome. So I do want to do a few things real quick. This part's just for fun. So one, I need to know, do you listen to Taylor Swift?
I do.
Do you have a favorite album?
Yeah, I can't remember the name, but it was the one with like, no, it was 1989. Is that the album? 89?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great choice. I have to agree. All right. What would be 1 or 2 essential books that you would say like a retailer has to read?
2 essential books, I would say.
1 or 2.
Yeah. I really like, this is for kind of any business owner, but $100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozy. He talks a lot about stacking value with your offers too. And like we had already kind of been doing something similar with e-commerce, but he had like a whole new framework that kind of applies to every business. I thought that was a really good read.
That book is honestly, if I had to say like top 5 books I've read in the last 10 years, $100 Million Offers would make that list.
Okay.
It is so powerful.
Yeah. Amazing. I just got goosebumps. Whew.
Yeah.
So I think you and I are aligned on that one. Another personal favorite of mine was there's a couple ones. Blue Ocean Strategy is a really, really good one. I don't know if you've read that one.
I have. It's incredible.
That one's good for retail because it's thinking about like creating new demand with new markets who you don't serve yet by just like repositioning your offer a little bit. And I also really like The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. Mm-hmm. Have you read that one as well?
Do we just have the same bookshelf? That's what I'm curious about at this point.
Those are some favorites right there.
That's awesome. Those are good. And then, is there a podcast you're listening to that you love besides this one? Of course. Are there others that you're listening to?
My good friend Kurt Elsler has the Unofficial Shopify podcast. Mm-hmm. That I was actually just doing an episode with him a few weeks to a month ago. But that's a good one. I honestly also like Guy Riaz. Like, what's the name of his podcast? All about the founders and the how I built this. How I built this.
How I Built This. Yes.
Yeah, that's usually a go-to for me too.
Yes, I absolutely love that show. The only part that gets challenging for me is like I'll be listening to episodes and on one hand it brings a sense of like if they can do it, so can I.
For sure.
But almost every person they interview is just like, I come from these humble beginnings, and then when I finished Harvard Business School, I moved on, and it's I'm like, okay, well, you and I are operating on different wavelengths.
Listen to the founder of Lush. His wasn't like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I will make sure and listen to that episode.
That was a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Scott, man, I appreciate you joining. This has been a ton of fun. You are a wealth of knowledge.
Hey, so glad to be here, Josh. Always love chatting with you.
All right. Well, again, if you want to check out his training, madebycapital.com/podcast. It'll also be in the show notes, and you can learn more about Merchant Mastery there. And we'll, of course, give links to their website and all that good stuff. They are an incredible company. So if you are wanting to grow your online sales and learn some of these things and work with a coach that can do that, they are a great place to go. So, Scott, again, thank you. And hopefully I'll have you back.
Good luck with your omelets.